So I wanted to give an update about the system and how it's been performing. I was going to show you what's going on. So the challenge that I'm facing is, or I was facing, was when the system is charging. You can see in the blue the charge. The yellow is the current. So the way it's set up is it hits a peak voltage, which is right around 54.5, and then it goes into float voltage, which now I've adjusted to 53 point around 7. And that float voltage is what was causing a challenge, where you would have an individual cell out of the 16 go high, and to protect the cell it would disconnect charging, that being the BigBattery BMS would disconnect charging, and by doing that, by disconnecting the charging, then the system would shutter and we'd lose power. And let me show you exactly what. Let's go to the left. All right, so now we're charging. We're about 70% according to the BMS's reading. But if you look here, you can see battery cycles. It shows 78, but single cell over voltage times, you can see that we have 12 occurring. And by having 12, we have every time that happens, and this is since September of 2021, and today is like March 8th, 2022. So, in 6 months, we've had 12 times that this has occurred. So it's not very frequent, but it does happen. And basically what's happening is an individual cell is going too high. And right now you can see that they're all good, but when it's not good, you'll see one of these cells much, much higher. So the way I've worked to try to prevent that single cell from shutting down the system is to lower the overall voltage that is charging the pack during float. So I went, I think, from 2.29, or maybe it was 2.3 volts. No, I think it was 2.28 volts per cell in the SMA. And you multiply that by 24, that gives you the total voltage. It's because it's considering it's a lead acid system, and lead acid systems are 24 cells in a 48 volt system. So we have lowered that from the 2.28, I think, to 2.24, and that's what's giving us that 54.5 that I showed you in the data coming from the Victron collection. Let me show you where at what voltage it cuts the charge off. So if you go to config here, BMS settings, and then you say BMS read, it shows you down here the protections. So cell over voltage at 3.8 volts. When a cell hits 3.8 volts, it shuts off the charging. The BMS shuts off the charging to itself, and that's what's occurring to us when you see those 12 incidents of shutdowns of over voltage. It's that 3.8 volt setting. So by lowering the float voltage setting, my hope is that I will stop these cell over voltage from occurring. Of course, it would be good if the BMS did its job and prevented that one cell from hitting 3.8. I mean, really, the other cells are around 3.6 when this occurs. So it's really a bad thing happening on the BMS's part. It's really not doing a great job of keeping them in check. So you can see the left battery has 12 instances of this occurring, and the right battery takes a second to load. You can see, this is a good balance, 16 millivolts. It's really good. 72 cycles. This happened 11 times. So they're both basically happening together. I mean, they're fairly closely matched in voltage, and the issues happen to them. I wouldn't say they happen simultaneously, but the number of incidents occurring, whether it's the left pack or the right pack, is pretty close to each other. That you've got one cell going above 3.8 and then it shuts down its charging. When that happens, like I said, the SMAs fault and you lose power, and then it does come back on its own, but it's not good to have those power glitches. It's sort of like a brownout. It's not a brownout, it's a hard shutdown, and then a restart. So let's go and look at something else that I wanted to give you an update on for the data manager M, and it sucks. A couple things are good. Shows your generation. It's lost the consumption. It doesn't show you your consumption. That's what comes from the battery. But I'll show you how you can see it still. You can only see it under history and then week view. Then all of a sudden your battery charge and discharge data come back in. And what you're showing, this is for 7 days. Sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go to last week. Okay, a complete week. So a complete week, my system made 234.5 kilowatt hours from the solar, and then battery charge was 109.6 and discharge 89.3. So that's about 12.5 kilowatt hours I'm discharging nightly from the pack, which is good. I mean, I'm pretty much zeroing my building consumption at night. Not zeroing, but about 230 watts are just coming from still the electrical grid, which I could show you. So this is showing, if you look, you could see how low my nightly consumption is, and that's all coming from the reason it's so low is the off-grid system is powering all other loads in the building, so I've greatly reduced what's on the electric company. So this is a separate solar system from the one that is charging the big batteries. Kind of confusing, I know, but the idea is that I've split my system up into on-grid solar system, which is this one right here, and the off-grid solar system, which by using those transfer boxes, I can take any given load and have it on the off-grid system, or have that load back onto this on-grid solar system and on the electric company. So I've greatly reduced my power consumption by this BigBattery off-grid system. You can see I'm much excess. I've got almost 1.3 megawatt hours sold in the last 30 days from the on-grid solar system, and then the off-grid is obviously charging and discharging the battery and powering the loads directly. Hope this update makes sense.